1, 2, 3.
It's time to talk fantasy football. Get your squad ready for this week's action with Frank and the Purple Rain crew. Now, live from the Fantasy Wire studios and home of the Casual Conversation podcast, it's the Purple Rain Fantasy Show.
Welcome to the Purple Rain Show, proud member of the Full-Time Fantasy Network. You're listening to the home of the Casual Conversation Fantasy Football Podcast. We're week 8, halfway through the season. I'm your host, Frank B. Find me on Twitter at FantasyWireHQ, online at thefantasyfootballwire.com, which I should have an update tonight or tomorrow by game time, I promise. On the website, you got starts, sits, risk-reward players, fantasy pro rankings, blogs, links, player comparison tools, podcast links, radio spots, everything's all in there, so you bookmark it, one-stop shop. You can follow the Purple Rain Show and the crew on Twitter and online, where we've got all our contributors, their fantasy articles, NFL reads, Ravens pregame, postgame, everything in between. So check that out at purplerainshow.com. Thanks for downloading the episode. Do me a favor and give this one a retweet, a share, leave a review, tell a friend. If there's anything you want to hear, hit me up. On today's episode, I plan on answering some of the Twitter questions I had this morning, and a few from yesterday. So I want to take some time to go over those and get you guys some answers. And then I'm going to jump in starts and sits in our normal rundown. I guess to start, we can get into some NFL news and injury updates. The injuries have been hot and heavy, so let's check that out. We know Patrick Mahomes. We all saw the knee, the golden knee. According to various reports, some are more optimistic than others. He's definitely not going to play in week 8. I guess he was practicing this week, so we're trying to dangle the carrot of Willie or Willie won't play and cause some stir. But I don't know. I don't see him coming back until the 12, week 12 maybe or something. It's hard to say. I mean, Matt Moore is going to hold the fort down while he's out. David Johnson for the Cardinals, he's got back and ankle issues, limited practice. If you got Chase Edmonds, you know how that played out. If you didn't get Chase Edmonds, you know how that played out with the splits. We'll see. Fantasy-wise, I feel like something more serious is going on here with DJ. Cardinals are bringing in free agents. They brought in Jay Ajayi, Spencer Ware. That has got to tell you something. So I kind of see a little smoke. There's got to be a fire somewhere. Teams they're not bringing in free agents for workouts, right? Look at what happened with the Patriots. Josh Gordon not playing. They signed Sanu, and then we get news today that Gordon's on IR. So there's a little something there in Arizona, I'm thinking. Matt Ryan with the ankle. Sprained ankle. Dan Quinn told the media, I'm not getting fired. No, I'm only kidding. He said, hopefully it's not a long-term thing and more of a short-term thing, quote. So, real in-depth look there. So we'll see how that plays out. In the meantime, you've got Mr. Pick 6, Matt Schaub, guaranteed to throw some picks. If you've got the, opposing team's defense while Schaub's in the lineup, you might as well play him. Will Fuller, that was a heartbreaker. Houston Texans, he had the hamstring. Damn, had him in a couple leagues. Sad to see him go because, man, when he's out there, he's dangerous. I think he's officially injury-prone player status. I don't know. He's got, he's joining the ranks of Sammy Watkins and some of those other guys that get the moniker of injury-prone and whatnot. But he missed 2 games as a rookie, 6-17. 9-18, and now he's going to be out a couple weeks here and for this season. I don't know. With him on the sideline, you're looking at Kenny Stills stepping up. D-Hop is your guy, of course. Kiki, you could throw him in the mix too. Kerryon Johnson, running back for the Lions. That one banged me out of a win this week. Early exit first quarter, lost to the Vikings, right knee injury. IR, I think he had 5 carries for 23 before the day was over, so he didn't get you anything on the fantasy lineups. So he's out. You got to put him in an IR spot if you have one in your league, or you got to make a move. And we all know the fantasy impact is rookie Ty Johnson, Maryland Terp, baby. Give him some work. He took over. He looked pretty good. I think he's going to split a little bit with that backfield. It's hard to say how that's going to, play out with some shared time. We'll keep an eye on it. If you were able to land Ty and, off waivers, I think that's a good move. Good for you. Adam Thielen, hamstring. He burned me. I had him and Johnson in the same league, so I was on major bust status this week. But Thielen with a hamstring, I think it's more of a precautionary that he's not playing Thursday night. I don't think he needs to play against the Redskins. Let him rest. He'll have plenty of time to rest up for the Week 9 against the Chiefs. So let him sit. I don't think that'd be anything major, but one to keep an eye on, as all of them are. The fantasy impact for him, Kirk Cousins, it's his guy. He's, Stephon Diggs is hot. I think he stays hot. But in his place, next man up mentality. So Delaney Walker, Tennessee Titans. I don't know, man. I'm starting to, I'm about done with Delaney Walker. I had him in a league. I dropped him. You're going to pick up Jonnu Smith in his place. I think you'll have much better luck with him. Walker's got the ankle injury. Pretty much cost him the entire 18 season. Remember week 1, he was out. That was a heartbreaker. So hard to say if he can come back at all. It's hard to, I don't know. With looking ahead, I'm going Jonnu Smith 110%. Adrian Peterson ankle, I think he's going to be all right. Saquon Barkley, I think it was like a toe and a foot. He came back after, sitting on the sideline, but I don't think there's anything major there. Same with Josh Jacobs. He left early with a trip to the locker room to get evaluated. He came back. Matt Breida, Ito Smith, they're in the concussion protocol. So I think, do what you want with those guys if you even roster Ito Smith or Breida. Breida's been a tough one to play, with the Niners. It's hard to say what he's going to stick with or be consistent with Coleman in the mix now. So that one just to keep an eye on. See how it goes. So fantasy questions here. Let me jump into this because I bookmarked them on my account. So let me jump that up and I'll see what I had in the mix because I wanted to get to some of these. And these are all off, like I said, casual conversations. So I'm just rolling with them as I read them. So I had Imperial T Clark, my man Clark. He says, is Melvin Gordon a good buy low target to trade for with a good schedule, hoping he will have better production? Or is this the new Gordon? That's a great question. I love that question. Clark with the cue of the day. My answer was he's a total stash play, but man, I hate when I see what I see so far from him, including a banged up offensive line. It's worth a shot if you're trying to make a late season surge. And I think that's kind of like, if you can get him on the cheap, what the hell? If your record, you don't have a positive winning record, you may or may not make the playoffs, pick him up, stash him if you've got room, and just see what happens. Who knows? What if he got hot, a week or two before the fantasy playoffs, right? You'd be pretty pissed if you didn't make a move. But then again, it's going to tie up a roster spot. Do you want him on there? You make the call, like I said, depending on where your team is sitting, how they look, what your league makeup, how your opposing teams that you're going to face, how tough are they looking. Melvin Gordon's playoff schedule is week 15 Minnesota, week 16 Oakland. So I don't like that Minnesota matchup. It's a 1-1. If you need a win to get in, I don't think week 15 would be the week to play them. If you're in, if you can squeak out week 1 or you get the bye, what have you, I think Oakland would be the better play, obviously, right there. Next one, I had William McBride. William McBride at Hooked on Phonics. He says, a guy in one of my leagues just dropped Mahomes for some reason. Should I use my number 1 waiver wire position on him and drop Murray or Winston? My record is 2-5 and need to keep winning. Standard league, STD league. I don't want any part of an STD league, but I'll jump in a standard league. My answer was, that's a tough call because we don't know how long he's going to be out for. I'd want to keep my waiver status for a hot ad, but if you really need a quarterback, it's a big move that could help later, just not immediately. I'm going to stick with that because it is a tough call. It's like, man, you got a chance to get Mahomes. He's tough as hell. He comes back. You're patient. You're 2-5, like we just talked about with Imperial T there. This is a stash. This is a later season surge play. So you've got to give up that number 1 waiver wire positioning. However that's set up in your league. I've never had that. I've never played in a league like that. I don't know, because I would try to look ahead at your roster and look at the schedules for some of your big guys, I guess, your heavy hitters. Look at, your bench. See who they're playing over the next 3 weeks. Do you think any of the guys that they're playing, any of the teams that they're playing the next 3 weeks, do you think anybody off those teams could have a breakout? Could we see another, I don't know, insert hot guy, Ty Johnson, or some out of the, left field player come out? It's hard to say. We're halfway through the season. There's a lot of, blips on the radar that don't turn into anything, that fizzle out. And there's a few that stick. So it would depend on the league. I think I could sacrifice the waiver wire position. Like I said, if I'm 2-5, shit, I got to just make a move, right? His answer to me was that he had Kyler Murray and Winston, but he's going to have to drop one of them. So, is it worth it? Which one would you drop? I just answered, I would probably drop Winston because Murray is getting better. He needs to get throwing touchdowns more, which he will, but his floor is solid, man. I don't know how the league's set up, but if you've got negative scoring for interceptions, and in the leagues that I'm in, most of them are 2 points. I have a few that it's 3. Winston's always throwing picks. He's going to go backwards a little bit in the scoring department. I feel like the safer floor is Murray without a doubt. So I answered, I drop Winston due to negative scoring on all the interceptions he throws. You got to stick with Murray on the floor. He's, like I said, I don't think he's thrown a touchdown on the road yet. So he's due, man. You got to keep Murray. I'm keeping him. Somebody else said the same thing, drop Winston, but I would do that for sure. Next up, I had Rachel Uranek. I'm going to say Uranek at RJ at R Uranek 23. I hope I'm saying that right. My last name's terrible, so please don't get upset. She says, with James Conner's quad issue from last week, do you pick up Snell, his backup, or stash Ty Johnson? I have no options if Conner ends up not going Monday night. I could also drop Bell, a defensive back. She's IDP in the house, and get both running backs. I'm only in one IDP league, and I took a long hiatus from IDP and I jumped back in. So I'm probably the last person you want to get defensive advice from. I'll be honest. I'm not going to lie. What I wrote about Ty is, he might be in like a light sprinkled running back by committee. Snell, to me, seems like he's the safer play. And I wrote, you can't go wrong either way, because I think both of those guys have good floors. They have good potential each week. They're set up, well on their team to run the ball. So I think Ty may be more your home run hitter. But you're still unsure about the whole situation with Conner and Snell. Is Conner okay? Is he going to play? Are they going to split? I don't think you can go wrong either way, because either one of those guys, Ty and Snell, they are good flex plays in a week. I don't think you have to put them in a RB2 or something, but as a flex play, I don't know if you do, 2 flex or what have you, 3 running backs or whatever. I'd be okay with either one. And then looking at their schedules down the road, let me see. I got to jump in there. Let's see. You got old Ty. So fantasy playoffs come here. You're going week 15, Tampa Bay. That's a nice matchup. And then week 16 at Denver. That's a little tougher. And then if you could jump into Snell or Conner, their playoff. I'm always looking ahead. So this is how I think. I'm always looking ahead. I want to see what's down the road. In between, I'll figure that out kind of week to week. But week 15 for the Steelers, they're going to play the Buffalo Bills. And then week 16, they're going to be at the New York Jets. So I like that Jets matchup a hell of a lot better than the Bills. Like I said earlier, if you're in a win to get in, maybe not the guy you want to play week 15. So you kind of have to size up your own team and say, where am I realistically going to be at week 15? If I'm, I need a win to get in, would I even play this guy? Buffalo's a pretty tough defense. They're handling running backs well. So you kind of look at it that way. I try to do that myself. Next up, I've got, Lou Rasta at I'm Liu Kang. Liu Kang drops a lot of mixes. He's got some stuff on iTunes. He's a producer. He's got some good shit. You need to check it out. But he's asking me, who can I drop for a McCaffrey handcuff and kicker must win? It's tough. So we're looking at some little desperation plays here. But he's on the bench. D. Montgomery, Singletary, Kirk, Gallup, Edmonds. Good job on Edmonds. Peterson and the Bears defense. He's also got the Steelers defense. In my opinion, and I answered D. Montgomery and Peterson, they'd be the odd men out if I'm trying to get those guys. If I'm trying to get a handcuff for McCaffrey or, he's got Justin Tucker. He's on a bye week. So you're going to have to grab best available kicker. I don't even mess with kickers. Whoever the top guy is, I'm just going to grab him. I don't give a crap. It's got to be Peterson first and then Montgomery. I would get rid of Peterson first. I think you've got a better chance of getting him back off of waivers if you were in a pinch than you would D. Montgomery. Somebody's going to scoop his ass up as soon as you drop him, no matter what their record is. So I grab somebody off, dump Peterson, see if you can get him back in a week, and go from there. Then my man Lou is like, for the podcast, he wants to hear about the Bears and Bills backfield, the Bears defense, Michael Gallup and Chase Edmonds. Bears and Bills backfields are a mess, man. I'm disappointed because I thought the Bears backfield was pretty cut and dry with Montgomery as the lead dog, Cohen as the complement. I thought they'd really ground and pound and not put it all on Trubisky. Well, it looks like they're not. It's disappointing fantasy-wise to play them is very frustrating because you don't know if they're going to go off. You don't know if they're going to disappear. If I can score trades for them, I just do it because players like that frustrate the hell out of me, and I hate dealing with it week to week because I know the week I play them, they're going to dud. The week I put them on the bench, they're going to go off. It's the formula, man. Hashtag because fantasy, right? So I don't mess with them. Like I said, if you got a trade partner on name value, just do it. Pull the trigger for somebody consistent. The Bears defense, I think the Bears defense is in trouble a little bit. Their run defense without Akeem Hicks, without him in that line, look what's happened past couple weeks, right? As soon as he was out, that's a different front four. So I think the word's going to get out. Opponents are going to be able to run a little bit more on the Bears, control the clock a little more, keep these games closer against them. I think the backfield, the back end turnovers, the linebacker, they're fine. I mean, they're good, but they're going to have a lot to handle when the front four can't get pressure. They're going to have to blitz more. So it's hard to say with the Bears. I could see their sack totals going up just because they're going to have to, amp up blitzes and scheme packages here, but I'm a little worried on their run defense more than anything. Dallas, Michael Gallup, him and Amari Cooper. Gallup's just got to get back in the mix. He's been up and down with Dak and Zeke. There's a lot of weapons. They got plenty of guys. I'm not too sure what's going on. Maybe he's had a couple down weeks. Hasn't been the same. They were both averaging like 100 yards a game or something for the beginning of the season, which was insane. But I think he comes. I trust him if I'm in a pinch. If he's on my roster, I'm in a pinch and I got to move somebody, I think I would, or try to trade him on name value. Somebody would trade with you, I'm sure. Chase Edmonds, we talked about him earlier. Looks like he's going to be the man in Arizona, but if they're going to bring in another back, is it going to be a shared backfield with Chase Edmonds and somebody else? Who would be the lead dog? Is it going to be, if they bring Spencer Ware, for instance, or Ajayi, are they going to be the lead dog? Edmonds is the complement? Is it going to be vice versa? Edmonds is the lead dog? I'm still I landed him in 2 leagues and I'm going to keep him. I'm not going to mess with anything until he really puts like 2 bad games together. Then maybe I'll try to trade him or get rid of him. That's my take there. I've got, come on here. I know I got somebody else. Chris at Monty King 20. He sends me some lineup shots. Clean, nice, beautiful screen caps. This is what we're looking for, man. He knows how to do it. He just says, how do I better myself? And he's got a screen shot of his roster, players that are available in waivers and the categories. Hats off to you, my friend. That is very, very well done. I'm looking at the roster, right? So I guess Dawson Knox would be the weakest link in that lineup, right? From the first shot of the starters. So I said, see if you can grab Dallas Goedert and drop Knox, right? Because Geidert's been getting targets, a little more involved in the offense. So I think that's who I want to say you grabbed. And then my other one was like, or, see if you can grab Edmonds and Ty, 2 running backs for Knox and then you could dump Knox, and you could dump. I actually put Marquise Brown because is this guy playing anymore? Is he done? Is he going to show up if he does play? Lingering ankle issue? I don't know. I don't think it's somebody that you need. I think he'd be an odd man out on your roster because you got Terry McLaurin. I keep him. Ingram, keep him. Thielen's, he may have the hamstring, but we know how consistent he is, so you're not going to move him. So I think Brown would be odd man out. And I was saying like Edmonds and Ty for, Knox and Brown kind of thing. He was, Chris says he's been considering changing or Brown. And then he was asking about Hawkinson or Herndon. I said Hawk. It's hard to say because Hawkinson kind of isn't in the game plan anymore. Now it's the receivers and backs. Herndon for the Jets, he was supposed to come back 2 weeks ago. Is he coming back? Is he going to play? What's the chemistry with Darnold? There's a lot of questions. I don't know. I grabbed him earlier, and I ended up letting him go this week and got some waiver fill-ins because I don't know what he's going to do. I don't want to carry dead weight. Now is not the time to carry dead weight on your roster. So that would be my take there. But I honestly, though, Chris, like your lineups, I like it, man. It's good. Wilson, Singletary, Breida, that's fine. DJ Shark, Volume, Crowder, Slot, Knox, Dump. We talked about him. Tate, Lambo, Thielen, Ingram. I think it's pretty good lineup. You should do well. I guess I'll end. I know I got a bunch of these. I'm going to end on Jerry Sinclair at Jerry Sin DFF. And this isn't even a question. This is just a post that I got an alert on. And it says, what's it like to play fantasy football? At Fantasy Wire HQ, me, has the 11th most points out of 1,200 teams, ... and is 3-4. No, seriously, that one made me laugh so hard. That was like the best notification of a post where somebody tagged me ever. I love it. Jerry, thank you for that because that seriously made my day. And that's why I replied, hence my hashtag, because fantasy. Because that's how the shit goes. It's crazy. But yeah, thanks, man. That made my day. That personally made me laugh out loud. For literally laugh out loud. And I thought about that and showed everybody at my work. I was cracking up. That was the funniest thing, man. I love it. Thank you very much. Let's jump into some starts, sits, boom, bust, everything in between. I got quite a few to roll through. I'll try to get through them pretty quick. Josh Allen, quarterback, facing the Eagles. Allen had his best game in week 7 against Miami with 25 fantasy points. I think he's got a pretty nice matchup this week against the Eagles. Their DBs are bad. 3 of the past 4 against that defense have scored at least 22, so you got to like him. Jared Goff against the Bengals. Goff was coming off his best game in Atlanta. I told you, he's going to rebound. Don't be scared. He put up 78, that prior week. Trust him in Atlanta. It's a bad team. It's a get-right game, and he had a solid game. It was great. Good to see. We just looked at Cincinnati last week without Dre Kirkpatrick, and now William Jackson hurt. So I think Goff is going to post another 20-plus fantasy point game without a doubt. Gardner Minshew going up against the Jets. It's hard to say. Nick Foles is coming back. Is Minshew mania done? Hard to say. I'm not sure. I think he's still a good start this week against the Jets. He scored at least 21 fantasy points in all but 2 games. I think he's just fine this week. Jameis Winston is back on the radar. I think he's like a low-end starter this week. But, I mean, if you're going to stream him or somebody, it's hard to say. I don't know. Maybe Ryan Tannehill or Teddy Bridgewater could be better, safer plays. Like we talked about earlier, I mean, he throws interceptions. He's going up against the Titans. Titans are pretty tough on defense. He's scoring at least 21, fantasy points in the last 3 games prior to that big meltdown against the Panthers. But I think he'll be better this week. He had a bye week, but I still think he's just a low-end kind of streamer or a low-end QB1 option. Kyler Murray, love him this week. Going up against the Saints. I know it's the Saints and their defense is for real, but I still think he can deliver. I mean, even if it's like a garbage time, the Saints allowed 22.1 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks, 5 of 7 quarterbacks have scored at least 21 against that defense. So why is Murray any different, right? Why can't he do better when he's already averaging like 20 fantasy points in 3 of his past 5 games? So I'd like him this week. I'm not scared to start him. I think Tannehill is a sleeper, boom or bust kind of play this week against the Bucks. You're going to need him. He's taken over for Mariota. He's actually getting the ball to A.J. Brown, Adam Humphries. So let's see what he can do there. Teddy Bridgewater, I think he's facing the Cardinals. But I think this is going to be his last start with Drew Brees on his way back. So if you've got Bridgewater stock, you might as well run it out there this week. I think he can be okay with like a 20-point game. I mean, he's averaging at least 20. He's done well. He's held the fort down. You got to like him. I think he can do 20 to 24 points this week. Mason Rudolph against the Dolphins. Dolphins actually played some defense this week, so it's a little, you wonder if it was a hiccup or what. They actually, stayed competitive for a little while, but every quarterback this season against Miami, multiple touchdowns, right? Rudolph, well rested. He had the concussion deal. I think he's going to have a nice game here. I like Deontay Johnson, I'm sorry, as his receiver to have a nice game. He's a start as well. Sits, I'm going to go Jimmy G. I know he just got Emmanuel Sanders, but do they click that fast? I don't know. Carolina's defense is pretty stout. They're tough against quarterbacks. I think, what is it? They've allowed 2 quarterbacks to score at least 20 points this year. So I'd sit them. Daniel Jones against Detroit, I'd sit him. They play a lot of man. He's gonna have a little trouble there. If Sterling Shepard is back from the concussion for this game, that helps him. But I don't know. He's only had one good game in 5 starts, so he'd be a sit. Carson Wentz against the Bills. He's almost like bust alert status. I don't think he's a sit, but he's almost like I don't know. I think he's done all right. He struggled in week 7, against Dallas, but it's hard to say. The Bills are tough. Their defense they've only allowed 1 quarterback to score more than 20, right? So I look at that and I'm like, well, he hovers around 20, low 20s. Could he get that done? Probably. He's at Buffalo, though. He's on the road. I think Buffalo is favored. I'm not thinking he's going to score multiple touchdowns this week. So if he can only get 1 and then lean on a running game, I think he's more of a streamer, low-end quarterback play. Matt Moore gets the Packers. He's holding the fort down for Mahomes. Packers D is looking pretty nice. The Packers are allowing an average of 15.6 fantasy points per game to opposing QBs, so not sure how much I like him there. Baker Mayfield, man, I don't know what to think. He's facing the Patriots. The Patriots defense is no joke. Baker is 1 game with 20 points this season. I can't see much happening there. Phillip Rivers, absolutely not. I'm not touching him. Running backs, Sony Michel, like him this week. Eckler, I still like him this week. He's got a featured role. I mean, he's still getting the ball and he's still making, something out of nothing there. You got to like Eckler. Chase Edmonds, I'm sticking with him again. It's a little risky to face the Saints, but New Orleans hasn't allowed a 100-yard rusher in 29 games in a row. That's pretty damn good. If you hear my dogs in the background, they're having a battle, so they'll be growling and barking. I don't know what's going to happen with Johnson this week. He's 1 carry or something against the Giants. He was basically out the whole game in favor of Edmonds. So if Johnson's back and the main guy, Edmonds is going to be, not featured as much, maybe a little complimentary role. He could be a flex play, but Edmonds has had at least 14 PPR points in 3 games in a row. So I'm hopeful, hey, stay hot, keep it rolling. Ty Johnson, we talked about him. He's going against the Giants. I'm going to gamble on him right off the waiver wire, into your lineup, produce. Hopefully it goes like that. I think he's going to obviously he's going to inherit Kerryon Johnson's touches, but are they going to be split with J.D. McKissick in any kind of fashion? I think McKissick is a sleeper this week, but I think Ty is your number 2 back, in any of your lineups. I don't know if you hear that. Hey! Calm down. David Montgomery going up against the Chargers. This feels like the Bears are going to say, okay, we can't, make Trubisky win us these games. We're going to go back to the running game. They're going to pay attention. It's going to be a run heavy attack. Chargers, they can get run on. I think, what did Nagy was saying something on the post-game press conference. I need to run the ball more, all that stuff. I'm not an idiot. So I think this is the week, hey, he's going to deliver a nice running game. So D. Montgomery will wake up. So you put him on your bench, he's going to go off. You put him in your lineup, he'll say, he'll have a meh kind of game. I think Benny Snell, Darrell Henderson, Jamal Williams, I think those are some sleepers this week. Benny Snell with Connor. I think Connor's going to be fine. I like both of those guys as flex plays, but I think he'll get a good workload even with Connor or Jalen Samuels. Jalen's banged up, I'm sorry. Snell had 17 carries, 75 yards prior, and 1 catch for 14 yards. Miami is allowing the most points to opposing backs, so take a flyer on him. I think that's fine. Todd Gurley for the Rams. He came back in week 7. He's probably going to be okay moving forward. If Henderson is like your number 2 back with Brown hurt, I think he's worth a look, at least like maybe a flex play. Jamal Williams, he's involved in that Packers offense. He's getting his touches and he is making the most of them. I like what he did against Oakland. When he gets the ball, he's not flashy, but he's putting fantasy points on the board each week. I think he's a lock and load flex play for me. He's not going to take the reins at any point unless Jones gets hurt. But Chiefs are number 7 in fantasy points allowed to running backs, so you got to like them this week. Devin Singletary, Royce Freeman, I like them this week. Singletary and Gore split in the backfield. That's another tough one to figure out. The positive for him in week 7 was that he had season high, 7 carries. Downside, no catches, fewer than 11 points for the first time all year. But I think he bounces back. It's the Eagles. I think he can get involved in the pass attack out of the backfield. Philly is among the league leaders in receptions allowed to running backs with 42. So you got to like him in there. Gordon is a sit. I'm just done with Gordon. The Chargers haven't won since he's been back. I don't want any part of him. Adrian Peterson, revenge game against the Vikings. I think both teams are going to get pretty amped up for that. I mean, I like revenge games, just not this week. I don't see him doing much there. Gore, he's going to be splitting. Damian Williams has been a bust. I traded for him. Not a bad trade, nothing crazy, but I thought he could be a little spark, and he hasn't done well. So I think LaShawn McCoy is your play in like a flex spot. Jordan Howard, Eagles going up against the Bills. I mean, Howard's had a rough 2 weeks, so he's combined for like 12 points or something, in 2 games. Obviously, when he doesn't score, you're getting nothing out of him. So 2 catches for like 6 yards, 2 targets. Not much you can do there. I know everybody was high on that Jordan Howard hype train after that Green Bay game. He's the man. This is the backfield. But now here we are. Here the bleep we are. So I'd say no. Joe Mixon, I think he's like a bust this week. I think he's boom or bust, but I think he's more of a bust. Seems like he's been a bust for majority of the season, but that Cincinnati offensive line is bad. You can't trust him in there. Excuse me. So wide receivers, I'm going John Brown. I like him this week. He delivered as a start of the week last week, man. I loved him last week against the Dolphins. He put up 19 points, 20, depending on your league scoring. He's had at least 11 in 3 games in a row. So you got to like that floor. He's a streaker. He can get down the field. You never know when he's going to explode. So I like him. Allen Robinson. I do like him this week. For everything said about Trubisky, I do like Robinson to get a lot of targets this week. He's been pretty much the best player that the Bears have, at a skill position. So he's had at least 12 points in 4 games in a row. He's got 7 targets in each game, so he's consistent. I like that. Golden Tate going up against the former team Detroit Lions. I think this is a revenge game to Detroit. Detroit's in a little bit of state of flux with the release of Diggs. Team's in a little disarray. Seems like some mutiny on the Patricia ship. I think Tate is going to have a decent game. He's going to face Darius Slay, but Darius Slay's got a hamstring. He's banged up, so I think that goes in Tate's favor. Lions have allowed 3 touchdowns to receivers in the past 2 games, so I'll take him there. Sleepers, I'm going to say, like, I don't know, Kenny Stills. We talked about him without Will Fuller. Philip Dorsett with no Josh Gordon. I know Mohamed Sanu is the shiny new, car there. I think Sanu's going to be involved, but without Gordon in the mix, I think it's Edelman, obviously, and then Dorsett, and then Sanu. I can't see Sanu just breaking onto the scene in his first game, right, after a trade this late in the week. So I'm going to say Sanu would probably be more your slot guy than the outside. Maybe they move him around, chess piece kind of thing. But I think Dorsett, he's the guy. He's got at least 4 targets. 3 of those games, he scored at least 13 points. I think, it can continue this week. It's the Browns. But I think Dorsett would be an upside low-end receiver, like a wide receiver 3 or a flex that has a lot of good upside ceiling. Zach Pascal for the Colts going up against the Broncos, the Denver Broncos. He's kind of coming around on the scene as number 2 receiver for the Colts behind T.Y. Hilton. So I think he's a low-end play this week against the Broncos. 3 of his past 4 games, at least 11 points. So I can take that. D.D. Westbrook, I love Westbrook. Tons of volume. He's been playing well. I think he's worth it in every league, no matter what you got, as a low-end starter. He scored at least 11, 3 of his past 4, 8 targets in 3 games in a row. DJ Shark is still your guy, but he's still getting looks. I think he's pretty much the de facto 1 for the Jags, Shark the 2, but he's a must start. I wouldn't yank him out of the lineup. Tyler Boyd would be a sit this week. I think Boyd's been a little frustrated. I know he gets volume and targets. It's hard to trust him though against the Rams. I mean, it's a London game. I don't like playing fantasy people in the London games because it's just weird. I mean, it's like a hex over there. I don't know. It's just weird. Remember the one London game where Mercedes Lewis just went off? When did Mercedes? That's like the highlight game of his career, right? The one London game. But he scored. Tyler Boyd has scored 8 points or less in 3 of his past 4. He's really had that one good performance against Arizona, so I think he's going to get matched up with Jalen Ramsey, and that isn't good for Boyd. So I'd say he's like a number 3 play this week. Flex, I mean, he's only scored 1 touchdown. Come on. I mean, it's been Auden Tate, touchdowns and whatnot. So I'm going to sit Boyd or a flex if I need to. Alshon Jeffrey, I think he's a sit this week. He was a huge letdown in Dallas. He should have went off. I love that matchup against Dallas. I really thought he was going to go off, but he didn't. 5 points or something. That was pretty pathetic. It's going to be a tough game for him this week too. The Bills secondary, he's going to face probably Tre'Davious White. Buffalo allows the 4th fewest fantasy points to receivers. Bills have only allowed 2 receivers to score this year, so that's a sit. I think Terry McLaurin, boom or bust. Robbie Anderson going up against the Jags. I think the time that I'm going to really lock in Anderson or Crowder is probably like week 9 or 10. I mean, the Jets are going to face Miami week 9. This week, I don't like him that much with Darnold. He's seeing ghosts. That was so stupid. I don't understand that. New England, week 7, shut him down, right? Anderson's surprise game against Dallas was awesome when he scored like 23 points, but I don't see him repeating that against the Jags. Week 9 through 14, the Jets play Miami twice. Then the Giants, Redskins, Raiders, Bengals. So that's my stretch that I want to play him in. Bust alert. Let's go bust alert. Odell Beckham, bust against the Patriots. I was going to lean boomer bust, but the more I think about it, originally I had boomer bust, but the more I think about it, it's almost like a bust. I mean, he's going to have Stephon Gilmore on him. Beckham's got 1 touchdown this season, and that was in week 2. I know he had 16 points against Seattle in week 6 before the bye, but the Patriots, they're so dominant. I just can't see him really giving you that insane, awesome game, especially if they can get to Baker Mayfield. So I think he's a wide receiver 3 in most leagues, but I mean he could be a bust if you're trying to slot him in that 1 or 2 spot. Tight ends, I'm gonna start Hunter Henry. Let's keep him rolling. He should be staying hot for the 3rd week in a row. I think he should be started in every damn league. 2 games back from a 4-game absence. He's got 14 catches, 197 yards, 2 TDs, 17 targets. So you lock him in. You absolutely lock him in. Gerald Everett for the Rams. He seems to be emerging as the tight end play there. 15 PPR points in 3 of his past 4 games. So at least 8 targets in 3 of those. 4 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown on 10 in week 7. So yeah, you keep rolling with Everett. He's a hot tight end. Sleepers, I don't know. I'd probably say Jonnu Smith. We talked about him earlier at the top. I think he's a good plug-and-play guy. Darren Fells for the Texans against the Raiders. Jimmy Graham did a little damage to Oakland. And I think with Deshaun Watson and Fells, they got a little something going. I mean, I know he let us down in week 7 against the Colts, just 2 catches, 27 yards. It was only targeted twice, but I think the Raiders, they're allowing the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing tight ends, and I think Fells could get a little more targets and looks without Will Fuller in the lineup. So I'm going to go with Fells this week. Greg Olsen, I was kind of split on him. I think he's more of a sit. I'm going to sit him because, man, the Niners, they're stingy. They're good. They're shut down. They're good on tight ends. I think he's kind of a low-end play this week. Eifert in week 2 is really the only tight end to score against San Francisco. No tight end has more than 32 receiving yards against that defense. So Olsen, I think he's going to sit. OJ Howard, we're done. Jack Doyle, we're done. Zach Ertz, he's been a hot topic on Twitter. I don't think you bench him in any leagues, but I don't think he's the one that's going to go off, with 10 catches, 100 and some yards. I think it's more like 5 to 8 catches for 70 maybe or something. He's pretty dependent on the end zone. It's a tough matchup against the Bills. They're number 1 in fewest fantasy points allowed to tight ends last season. They ranked number 2 this year. So they're staying right there, locking down opposing tight ends. So Buffalo is one of 3 teams yet to allow a tight end to score. Minnesota and New England are the others. So Ertz has only got 1 touchdown this season. I don't like him to do much this week, so he'd be a sit. I think that's everybody. I had a few notes here of other guys. I think that's probably about it for starts and sits. So we can talk about some guys that we're probably going to fire this week because, hey, people got to get fired.
Screw you! You're fired! You're fired! Whoa! You're fired! You're fired!
No XFL yet. Joe Flacco, Denver Broncos, don't need you.
He gone!
He's been dreadful, just terrible. We saw Marcus Mariota get benched. When's Flacco getting benched? Kenyon Drake?
He gone!
I know he's owned in a ton of leagues. He's been decent in PPR, but man, that's a bad team. I don't know why. I keep seeing people wanting to trade, like double up trade Dolphin running backs for other guys. I don't want him. He hasn't topped 44 yards on the ground in any game this season. I don't want him. I'm done with him.
He gone!
Nelson Aguilar.
He gone!
I think a lot of free agent fab money was spent on him. I know I spent some on him, and he is not doing anything. The Eagles got a real tough upcoming stretch with a road game at Buffalo this week. They've got Chicago, Patriots. I mean, man, I don't know. I get somebody else. I dump Aguilar if you have him and go grab like Adam Thielen's backup, right? Johnson, grab him or something. And then my big one here. This is the dream is over, my friend. Antonio Brown.
He gone!
Can someone please tell him to just end it here? How in the world am I seeing people picking him up in leagues? I'm in a bunch of leagues, and in a few, I've seen people sign him and drop players to have him take up space and dead roster spot. He ain't coming back. He's done. I mean, every rostered player, you need this guy. You may need this guy even more later. You just don't know it yet. If you want to make a fantasy football championship run, why are you going to waste a spot on Brown? So, absolutely, Antonio Brown.
He gone.
Delaney Walker, I think it's time to cut the cord on him like we talked about earlier, the ankle injury. I can't see him doing anything for the rest of the season. It's kind of difficult for me to trust him. I mean, if he's got the ankle injury and he plays, who's to say he doesn't play the whole game and he's out midway through? So I don't want to deal with him either. It's a no for me. Delaney Walker.
He gone.
See you later. Not too many guys this week. It's hard to say. Some of the guys you have on your roster, maybe hold on to them. This is the time of the year when I'm going to hold on to some guys maybe a week or two longer and before I cut them loose, because I just want to see one more, depending on the record. I mean, everything depends on your record, of course. But just to see if they can show me something and keep them around as a fill-in or a flex play on a bye week, coming, for the bye weeks coming up. So that's my reasoning there. Now, who's ready to pick some real games?
What kind of horse y'all got? High horse. What kind of horse y'all got? High horse. What kind of horse y'all got? High horse. Y'all boys ready? Yeah. Y'all boys ready? Yeah. No, y'all boys ain't ready? Shit. Somebody light me up. Boom.
Let's get it on. We got Redskins, Vikings, Thursday night, Minnesota, favored by 15.5. Good God. 15.5? I don't like that. No Adam Thielen, and you're gonna win by 15.5? Washington's bad, but are they that bad? I guess. I mean, they're going to try to ground and pound and control the ball with Peterson. I got to go Washington. I think, oh, yeah, I mean, Minnesota wins the game. Don't get me wrong. They just don't cover that 15-5. Broncos and Colts. Colts by 6.5. Favored, I can take that. Chargers, Bears. Bears are favored by 4.5. I like that. Seahawks, Falcons. Falcons are plus 3.5. You got to go Seattle all day there. Jets at Jaguars. Jags are favored by 5.5. I'll take that. Cardinals and Saints. Saints are favored by 9.5. That seems about right. I'm going to go with the Saints. But you never know. I mean, they could bring that. Kyler Murray could really tighten that up, because I don't think the Saints have really faced a quarterback like him yet. So I'm going to go. I'll stick with that 9.5. They can win a touchdown and field goal and cover that. The Eagles and Bills. Bills favored by 1.5. I'll take that. I like that. Bengals and Rams. Rams are favored by 12.5. I'll take it. I don't know. It's a London game. Yeah, I'll take it. Bucks and Titans. This is how I pick games, literally. This is how I think. Bucks and Titans. Titans are favored by 2.5. That's a close one. That could almost go either way. It's almost Sex Panther special style. I think I'll take Tennessee. They got the better defense. Winston is bound to throw a pick or two at the worst possible time. Give me the Titans. The Giants and Lions. Lions are favored by 7.5. Give me the Lions. One pride. Carolina Panthers. 49ers. 49ers are favored by 5.5. I'm going Carolina. I'm doing it because Carolina's defense is stout. They don't get a lot of recognition, but they are capable. I think they can keep them in the game. I think the Niners win overall, but I think Carolina can keep that game a little closer than the 5-5 and and make San Francisco, eke out a win by 3 or something. So Patriots and Browns. Oh boy. Patriots favored by 12.5. Give it to me. Raiders and Texans. Texans are favored by 6.5. Raiders look pretty bad in Green Bay. I'm gonna take the Texans. Chiefs and Packers. This is the game.
Yo! Saddle up! Lock and load!
Give me the Packers. Go freaking Pack. Dolphins and Steelers. Steelers are favored by 14.5. Give me... Oh, boy. Mason Rudolph. Miami showed a glimmer. They showed a glimmer. A gleam. There's a gleam of defense. I'm going to go Miami for that. I'm taking Miami that way. I don't think they can cover 14.5. With Rudolph, Big Ben was playing? Absolutely. Give me that all day. No Big Ben. I'm Mason Rudolph. I think it's got to go Miami for that route.
Purple rain,
So that's going to wrap up Week 8 Purple Rain Fantasy Podcast. And as always, thank you very much for listening, supporting the show. Drop some comments, post up on Twitter. Do not forget, on Sundays, Livewire Sunday at Fantasy Wire HQ. Hit me up with lineup questions, starts and sits. Anything you want to hear on the show, you name it, I'll get you back in like record time. It's Casual Conversation Podcast, so I'm game for anything. If you want to hear it on the show, hit me, let me know, DM, whatever you want to do. Good luck to everyone this week in your fantasy leagues. It's crucial. This is week 8. This is where we got to separate a little bit. You got to make some moves. If you got to get back in the game, if you got to stay on top, you got to maintain, you got to dial in that lineup. You got to get the right players slotted up this week against your opponent. So good luck. I appreciate everybody listening. We will see you back here next week.
Yeah, all right. This press conference is over.
Go away.
No, it's over, Phil.
Please,
It's over.
That wraps up today's episode. For even more fantasy football content, find Frank on Twitter at FantasyWireHQ and online at thefantasyfootballwire.com. Be sure to tune in next week, and thanks for listening.